time once again to cross over the boundary between the real and the unreal.
Beyond Belief. Fact or fiction? Hosted by Jonathan Frakes. We live in a world where the real and the unreal live side by side, where substance is disguised as illusion, and the only explanations are unexplainable. Can you separate truth from fantasy? To do so, you must break through the web of your experience and open your mind to things beyond belief.
What mysterious forces cause some soil to be fertile, while other gardens yield nothing but wilted dreams? What is the secret of the green thumb? Joss Myrtle doesn't possess a green thumb. In fact, lately his efforts to cause his land to bloom are mostly all thumbs. But Joss Myrtle loves his land, and even though he has no financial resources, he is determined to see it thrive again, no matter what the cost.
I was just a teenager when it all happened. I worshipped my father, but he was putting our family through terrible times. Our farm was going under. Nothing was growing. But Papa refused to admit it.
Joss, did you hear what I said?
I heard you.
Well, look at it. The land is worthless. It's been barren for 2 years. Your mortgage is about to go into receivership. Look, Joss, I understand what you're going through, but the best financial advice I can give you is to sell now, cut your losses, and give your family a chance. Paula, he's going under. He's dragging you down with him. When are you going to wake up?
You're my brother, Harold, and I love you. But I won't have you talking about my husband that way in his own home.
Well, you're going to lose your home. You're going to lose everything. Joss, I brought the papers with me. We're making you the best offer you're going to get. I'm going to leave them. I urge you to take a look at them, and I urge you to accept... Joss, I strongly urge you to accept our offer. You got to get your farm out of... He's hopeless. He's utterly hopeless.
Papa! Papa, are you okay?
This land means everything to me, April. It's been in our family for generations. It's been good to us. It's given us life. I owe this land my soul.
Uncle Harold says we're gonna have to leave.
We're not leaving. The farm stays in the family. It's always been handed down, and that's the way it's gonna be. I'm gonna make the land rich again, so it'll grow.
How are you gonna do that, Papa?
Don't you worry, Hal. Just know we're gonna stay.
A few nights later, I was tossing and turning, going in and out of sleep. I had lived on the farm all of my life, and the idea of giving it up and moving somewhere else frightened me. I didn't know any other life. But as scared and sad as I was, Papa was going through a lot worse. I'm not sure what made me get out of bed at that moment. Maybe it was the voices I heard downstairs. One voice sounded like Papa's, but the other I had never heard before.
You got here quick. You called, I came. What can I do for you?
Will you give my family 20 years of props?
There's no saying exactly what I'll do. You're not the one who calls the shots here, Joss.
Look, this means everything to me, but I don't know if I can go through with it.
Now or never, Joss. Make up your mind.
Do you have everything you need to do this?
Just come with me.
I wasn't sure who the stranger was. I thought maybe it was Mr. Johnson, the rich man who lived in the next county. I'd seen someone who looked like him hanging around the barn once, and that's who Papa told me it was. I couldn't help but follow them out the door to see what was going on. It was really cold that night, but I didn't even think about getting a coat. Nothing could take away the chill I was feeling. I had no idea what they were doing, and I was too far away to hear what they were saying. The only thing I do know is the one thing I'll never forget. That was the last time I ever saw my Papa alive. telling you, I went outside and I saw it. He wasn't there. I think he went away, but he disappeared.
What do you mean he disappeared? It had to have been a nightmare.
No, it wasn't a nightmare. I know what I saw. He's gone. Mama said she didn't believe my story. She said Papa had just up and left, and I was making the whole thing up to ease her pain. But I knew deep down she didn't believe her story either.
Stay on the land.
In the morning, the wind had died down, and when I opened my eyes, I knew something was different. I could feel Papa all around me. In fact, I was sure that if I opened the door, I would see him standing outside in the field. Mama! Mama! Mama, wake up!
What is it? Was something wrong?
Nothing's wrong. Come on. It was the most beautiful sight we had ever seen. The fields were green and the crops were growing. I wanted Papa to see it too, but I had the feeling he knew all about it.
Did Joss Myrtle really disappear and become part of his land? Or did he simply go away one night, never to return? Was his daughter dreaming when she saw him hit by lightning that night? Then how do you explain the sudden greening of the Myrtle farm? And what about that pile of clothes, and who was the mysterious stranger? Is there truth blossoming here? Or is it just another homegrown lie? We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a luxury liner hits an iceberg on Beyond Belief. Fact or fiction? The luxury liner, very much in our thoughts these days. The image of a giant ship cutting through the waters combines our fantasies of opulence with the undeniable romance of the open seas. No wonder these miracles of the waves have a way of capturing our imagination. This next story of a seafaring disaster is set in a time earlier than most of our tales, but the inspiration for its telling is as fresh as tomorrow. It was a cold winter's morning when Harris Fisher, an author who hadn't had a bestseller in much too long, met with his publisher.
It's a good idea, Harris, but it's just not what people are reading. True stories are where interests lie nowadays. Jack the Ripper, that's what's selling.
I'm a writer. I'm not a newspaper reporter. The stories come from my imagination.
And the tide will change until it does. Pick up a paper, look at the headlines.
It's not me, Zachary. Fiction is still greater than anything you could read in a newspaper. You'll see.
Back in his apartment, Fisher struggled once again with the writer's block that was crippling his creative process. Story after story would start in his head, only to go nowhere. He knew his publisher's suggestion of stealing a plot from the headlines was a good one, especially for a writer with no ideas. But Fisher was determined to come up with an original plot. But then, an article caught his eye. A grand story took shape in front of him, a story as rich as the day's headlines.
That's it.
Suddenly, it was all so easy. The chains around his imagination seemed to be breaking off, link by link. If it was a story that came from the headlines that people would buy, then that was what Fisher was going to give them. Always one who worked better from a visual concept, he began to draw on a sketch pad. Fisher could see the ship in front of him. Like the Titanic, it would be a giant luxury cruiser. Like the Titanic, it would have huge smokestacks that would tower above its decks. There was no stopping the direction that his mind was heading now, so he let it go. Yes, and like the Titanic, the massive ship would set sail from England. This was the story Fisher knew he could sell, and so this was the story he would write. Soon, Fisher's apartment was filled with a sound it had not heard in months, the furious clacking of typewriter keys. Fisher's imagination was sailing as fast as any ship. This story would follow the same plot as the Titanic. His ship would also be traveling to the United States. In fact, its destination was New York. Crowds would gather on the docks to wish it bon voyage, this wondrous, unsinkable legend. There were periods when Fisher questioned his project. Could he really get away with this idea? Wouldn't readers reject the concept? Yet it all seemed so clear. Why not give in to the words that were crying to be let out? After several hours of inner struggle, Fisher knew he had no choice. He must go ahead with this book. The similarities to the Titanic were an intrinsic part of Fisher's story, right down to the name he chose for his ship, the Titan.
To the captain!
To the captain.
To the captain!
There was no stopping Fisher now. The world outside his apartment ceased to exist.
All right, I'm coming.
I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Fisher, but I thought you'd want your food brought up to you again.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Clark.
There's going to be a big storm coming in tonight. Do you have enough wood?
Yes, I'm fine.
You know, my husband and I marvel at your talent. Your stories are always so original.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Back to his typewriter. The parallels would continue. Both the Titan and the Titanic were the same approximate length and width. Each ship had 3 propellers, and each carried over 2,000 passengers. Both ships were the most expensive, luxurious seagoing structures of their time, and the creme de la creme of society spent fortunes to book passage. And then, Fisher added his most outrageous touch of all. His ship, the Titan, would be hit by an iceberg. And like the Titanic, great numbers would die of exposure in the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean.
Harris, come in.
I just wanted to stop by to see if you read my story yet.
Please, sit down. Harris, a 70,000-ton ship on its maiden voyage, carrying over 2,200 passengers, and it hits an iceberg and sinks? Over 1,500 people die? Come on, Harris, it's not going to happen. I told you, people aren't interested in fiction.
The only difference between fiction and non-fiction is that fiction hasn't happened yet.
And this never will. All right, Harris, give it another try, and in the meantime, I'll give this another look.
Harris Fisher's story was written in 1898. The Titanic went down in 1912. An amazing story, especially when you consider the Titan was written 14 years before the Titanic ever sailed. Could Harris Fisher really have imagined all those parallels to the Titanic? Was there some newspaper article about plans to build the Titanic that he lifted his ideas from? Or was it another example of art foreshadowing life? The same way Jules Verne wrote of submarines long before their invention. Or Da Vinci sketched flying machines centuries before the Wright brothers. Is our story of the ship that hit an iceberg the truth? Or is it simply a Titanic hoax? We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a diary predicts disaster on Beyond Belief. Fact or fiction? Once private thoughts were kept in locked diaries, hidden away from prying eyes. Today's high-tech generation are more than likely to record their deepest secrets on a computer. Kim Maddox is a lonely girl who feels safe recording her thoughts on a computer. But what happens when outsiders invade the private sanctuary of her innermost feelings? We are about to see the frightening consequences.
I never fit in. People think I'm weird because I see things before they happen.
Can you believe that little geek actually had the nerve to talk to me? What did she say? Something about Brad's party. This is it. Let's go. Hey, Kim! Hey, Kim! We've got something for you.
I wasn't popular, and Rasha and Daly were. So I loved it when they paid attention to me.
Loser! Did you see the look on her face? We got her so good.
I didn't hate them. I hated myself. I decided to take a walk.
Door open.
I realize now they must have been hiding.
The freak left her computer behind.
Well, she must be going someplace special.
Who cares where she's going? I have a better idea. Let's take a trip into Kim World.
My mind was so preoccupied, I never remembered to lock up. I can only guess what happened next.
Daly, do you think anybody saw us?
No, no one saw us. Come on, let's try the back door. They really should lock their doors.
There it is, her computer.
Let's see what we have.
Go to diary.
Yeah, let's see what's on the little freak's mind.
Look, she's got stuff about all the kids in school. No way. How does she know that?
Wait, are we in there?
March 13th, I saw Daly and her boyfriend Travis in the school hallway today. I'm afraid they'll be breaking up soon. Poor Daly.
That is so not true.
Rasha is going to fail civics and spend the summer in school. Too bad. She'd really rather go to Europe with her parents. Her teacher is so mean.
Please, just ignore it. She's so weird. She's coming. Let's go.
Oh, come on.
When I came back, I didn't know they had been there. When I saw that the computer was turned on, I thought maybe I had forgotten to turn it off. But I wasn't sure. It was a creepy moment that I didn't like.
It's dumb luck. Everyone knows I hate civics.
Hello? Hi, Travis. What? What do you mean we need space? The only reason why I went out with you in the first place was because I felt sorry for you, jerk. That stupid idiot.
Daly.
What?
It's coming true? Everything she wrote in the diary?
Oh, yeah? Well, let's find out what else she knows.
I can't believe we're just breaking in.
Look, we're just gonna find out what the little witch is predicting this week.
That feeling is coming over me again. Something bad is going to happen. Smoke. Lots of smoke at Daly's house?
What? Oh my God, they're at my house.
My predictions were just for me to read. I couldn't control them. They just came over me. I was starting to feel something really terrible was going to happen to Rasha and Daly. I didn't know if I could stop it from happening, but I had to find a way to warn them.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
We just wanted to come over and say hi.
Look, I know we haven't always gotten along. We just wanted to say that we're sorry.
And that all is forgiven, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Do you want to come in?
Sure.
I'm glad you guys stopped over. My parents are going away for the night, and I was going to see a movie. Would you like to come? I really need to talk to you.
Okay, yeah, we will, meet you there.
Okay, 8 o'clock show?
Sure, we'll see you there.
As if, freak.
I never told them what I wanted to say. Then they'd never want to be my friends. But I guessed if they were reading my diary, they would find out on their own.
But maybe we shouldn't do this. And come on, let's just leave her alone.
We will. You just can't trust these computers. They can get really sick.
Well, wait. We should look and see what she wrote first.
I can't believe this. We are going to Brad's party anyway.
I knew they would never make it to the movies to be with me. Brad's party was going on at the same time. The sad part was, I knew they'd never make it there either. I didn't wish anything bad on Rasha and Daly. It wasn't their fault they were mean to me. And it's not my fault that I always end up the same way. Alone.
Our story ends before we find out the exact fates of Rasha and Daly. Sad to say that shortly after reading Kim's diary, they were involved in a fatal traffic accident. Was their untimely end really predicted by Kim? Or were they so frightened upon reading the diary entry that they were driving in a state of blind panic, bringing about their own demise? But then, how do you explain the accuracy of all those other prophecies on Kim's computer? The story may be fact, then again, it may be fancy. What's your prediction? We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a woman explores the hidden secrets of her past on Beyond Belief. Fact or fiction? The human brain. Much too complicated to be understood by the human brain. Repressed memory, total recall, deja vu, all found here. And all basically unexplainable. Jane Doe has no recollections of her past, yet on the blank wall of her memory, images appear that she seems to remember. You are about to enter her world, to experience a tale of amnesia you will never forget.
After the accident, I had completely lost my memory. I hated the name Jane Doe, but that's all they could call me. Nobody knew who I was or where I came from. I had no identification or records. All I had were these flashes in my brain, and I was beginning to get one now. Stop the car, Susan, please. Susan was an attendant in the hospital where I was staying. She was assigned to drive me to a specialist several hundred miles away. But what I was starting to experience was more important than any help a doctor could give me. I was starting to experience my past. All of a sudden, I have this funny feeling that I've been in this town before. And I think I've even been in this diner.
Well, it certainly is quaint.
Something told me there was a counter area upstairs that I had visited many times.
Good afternoon, ladies. What'll it be?
I'd like a gardenia float.
What, please?
A gardenia float, please. With extra whipped cream.
Kind of fancy for this place.
2 scoops of ice cream, root beer, and some nuts sprinkled on the top, and it's served in a dish that looks like a flower.
Now, in all the years I've been here, I've never heard anybody order a gardenia float. Would you settle for a piece of Bud's special pie?
Sure, why not? She's suffering from post-traumatic memory loss.
That's just a fancy way of saying I've got amnesia.
Gosh, I'd really like to help you out, but I've never seen you before. Now, Annie here might know more than I do. After all, she's been delivering mail in these parts for about 100 years now.
Why don't you talk to her while I go freshen up in the ladies' room?
Oh, it's just, past those 2 booths, take a right and a left, and it's across from the jukebox.
That's exactly right.
I think I'll have my usual.
Lemonade with 2 sugars.
How'd you know that?
Did you used to buy lemonade from a little girl on Spring Street?
Spring Street, that's part of the I-90 interstate.
That's been gone for years.
Are you okay, hon?
I don't know. My head is splitting open. I see flashes and they just disappear.
What is it?
This table. There's something special about it.
AW loves BP. What does that mean? Do you know those people?
I don't know, but it sounds familiar.
BP is Billy Palmer. They said he was in here all the time.
Poor kid. He was killed in a bad crash years ago. He was on his way to elope.
It had happened on the bridge outside of town. Maybe around midnight.
Yeah.
Is the cemetery still across the road in St. Mary's Church?
Hasn't moved.
Come on, Susan.
Thank you.
There in the cemetery, I was sure I would discover the link to my past. I stared at the headstone of Billy Palmer, praying that it would open some closed door. Who was he? I felt if I stood there long enough, it would become clear. I had a few false hopes, but in the end, Billy's grave gave me absolutely no answers at all. I felt I was so close to finding myself.
And?
Nothing. Just a blank. I was so sure this was gonna lead somewhere.
Our Jane Doe never knew the possible truth. For only a few feet from Billy's grave was the grave of the girl who died with him that same night. Her photo, a dead ringer for our Jane Doe. Angela Wright, born 1930, died 1950. Did our Jane Doe actually live a past life in the town she was visiting? Was it really her who died in that accident years ago? Or was that photograph in the cemetery just someone who looked like her? Is this the first time you are being asked to judge the truthfulness of this tale? Or, as that great philosopher Yogi Berra once said, is this deja vu all over again? We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, spontaneous fires invade a home on Beyond Belief. Fact or fiction? Many say that fire is man's first great discovery. For centuries, it has allowed us to cook our food, heat our dwellings, and light our pathways. And everything that has been invented since either relies on fire or imitates it. But fire is inspiring something else in the lives of Stuart and Laura Freeland, the destruction of their security. And when we cannot control our own safety, then all we have left are the fires of fear. Detective Harold Peters had been a cop for over 20 years. He has seen more than he cares to remember. But the only cases that keep him up at night are cases like this one. That's why he's here today, searching through the rubble for answers. And remembering when this was a dream house whose dreams kept going up in smoke.
Stuart! Help! Oh!
Honey, get back! Get back! What the heck? Turn off the electricity!
You folks have somewhere to stay tonight?
Yeah. I don't understand it. We just bought the house. They said everything checked out fine.
Well, I've never seen flames shoot out from an alley before. I'm sure an electrician will be able to figure it out. Good luck.
You sure this is the right one?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. I mean, it looks brand new. Not even scorched.
I don't understand.
I don't know. The insurance company wants me to change it and check out the wiring. If there's a problem with the electrical, I'll find it.
God. Stuart.
Honey, what's that smell?
I don't know, but it just started getting really bad.
It's in here, too.
Where's it coming from?
I don't know. Call 911.
The fire department confirmed the overwhelming odor of sulfur. By now, they had been called to the Freeland's residence on 5 different occasions. Another fire and another dead end. That's when police detective Harold Peters was assigned to the case.
Freeland.
Nice to meet you. Might have asked you a few questions.
No.
Your name is Stuart Freeland, you said?
Yes.
And your name?
Laura Sloan Freeland.
Mm-hmm. Is there an E at the end of Sloan?
No.
Detective, what's this all about? Why the police?
Well, we're trying to figure that out, Mr. Freeland. I mean, the fire department can't keep coming out here. I will tell you what's baffling here, though. There are no scorch marks on this wall here. I mean, if the fire's touching the wall, you figure you gotta leave a mark, but, nothing.
Right, the insurance company has sent inspectors, electricians, even soil specialists. No one can figure it out.
Shame. Where do you work, Mr. Freeland?
Tech Aerospace.
Mm-hmm. And, business good?
Yeah, it's good. What are you saying, Detective? That we had something to do with this?
Oh, no. Let me be honest with you. I can't figure this out. I mean, there are no scorch marks on the floor or the walls. I mean, it's the damnedest fire I've ever seen. For the fire department, too.
What do you think we should do?
Damn if I know. Maybe you ought to get yourself a psychic.
The next day, the Freelands called Dr. Lloyd Cameron, a man with an incredible success record in spirit and depossessions.
Well, there are no fluctuations in temperature or energy levels.
What does that mean?
It means that I don't see anything in this house. There is another answer. Maybe the energy has attached itself to one of you.
Come on, that's crazy.
How could that happen?
Something somebody's done. Something bad.
Oh, God. was 9. My brother Scott and I set fire to the woods next to our house. It got out of control and it burned the whole lot. My father said that whoever did it would be followed by fire. I mean, he scared us so bad, we never said anything. I never told anyone.
Now you have.
What does that do?
Well, it clears the conscience and it releases the spirits. Repression and denial are the fountainhead of paranormal activity. It's over, Mr. Friedland.
But it wasn't over. The fires continued to burn inside the house. Finally, the insurance company determined that the blazes were caused by undetectable gases and ordered the house torn down. The same day, Stuart and Laura Freeland moved to another town. But something was left behind. A member of the wrecking crew found it and handed it over to Detective Peters. At first, it seemed like a useless memento, but it turned out to be much more. It was an old scrapbook filled with memories that should have been discarded long ago, but were saved like some horrible lesson you don't want to remember, yet are afraid to forget. The book showed that Laura Sloan Freeland, as a little girl, was involved in an incident of criminal arson. The fire she started killed several people. So the psychic was right, only it wasn't the husband that the evil energy had attached itself to. It was the wife all along. Detective Peters had his answers. The question was, did he believe them? Could this story have actually taken place? Can spontaneous combustion occur with no scientific explanation? Or could the fires have been caused by some repressed spirit sent to punish a woman who had crossed the gods of flame in the past? Is this story real or unreal? That is the burning question.
Coming up, we'll find out which of our stories tonight were fact and which were fiction when Beyond Belief returns.
And now let's find out if you were able to separate fact from fiction tonight. And how about the farmer who vanished into thin air and then seemed to use his spirit to replenish his land? How do you judge this one? If you guessed this was a work of fiction, you guessed right. We made this one up. What about the author who foretold the tragedy of the Titanic 14 years before it sailed?
A 70,000-ton ship on its maiden voyage, carrying over 2,200 passengers, and it hits an iceberg and sinks? Over 1,500 people die? Come on, Harris, it's not going to happen. I told you, people aren't interested in fiction.
If you guessed this was a story based on reality, you were correct. It's fact. Let's take another look at the story of the student whose electronic diary seemed to predict the future.
Look, maybe we shouldn't do this. And come on, let's just leave her alone.
We will. But you just can't trust these computers. They can get really sick.
Well, wait. We should look and see what she wrote first.
I can't believe this. We are going to Brad's party anyway.
I knew they would never make it to the movies to be with me. Brad's party was going on at the same time. I didn't wish anything bad on Rasha and Daly. It wasn't their fault they were mean to me. And it's not my fault that I always end up the same way. Alone.
Was this story based on an actual incident? Yes, it was. It happened. And now it's time to decide the honesty of the tale of amnesia and a life lived before. Let's see a brief reprise.
I'll have my usual.
Lemonade with 2 sugars.
How'd you know that?
Did you used to buy lemonade from a little girl on Spring Street?
Spring Street, that's part of the I-90 interstate.
That's been gone for years.
Are you okay, hon?
I don't know. My head is splitting open. I see flashes and they just disappear.
Was this story of a woman whose memory was based on a past life true? Not this time. It's fiction. Let's look at the strange story of the house invaded by flames. Real or not?
My father said that whoever did it would be followed by fire. I mean, he scared us so bad, we never said anything. I never told anyone.
Now you have.
What does that do?
Well, it clears the conscience and it releases the spirits. Repression and denial are the fountainhead of paranormal activity. It's over, Mr. Freeland.
The story of fire that couldn't be controlled or explained is inspired by a similar incident. So where is the line between fact and fiction? Who among us can see it so clearly that there is never a question of what is true and what is beyond belief? I'm Jonathan Frakes.
Join us for more stories on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.